Imagine this. You walk into a boardroom for a deal worth billions. You stick out your hand to say hello, and the person in charge just laughs in your face. Believe it or not, that single moment of disrespect is what blew up one of the biggest corporate deals of the year. So let's get into how it all went down. Okay, so let's talk about the money. This is the number at the absolute center of this story, $2.1 billion. A massive pile of cash meant for a huge corporate merger, and it all came down to this one meeting.
And then, bam, just a few hours later, that money, it was gone. We're not talking put on hold or renegotiated. Nope, pulled. Instantly, vanished from the deal with two simple words that sent an earthquake through the entire company.
So you got to be asking, right? How does a meeting that's basically just a final sign-off, a done deal, completely implode into a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe? Well, it all started with the one thing you learn on your first day of business school. All right, so let's start at the beginning. It all kicked off with a handshake, or, well, the lack of one. This is where our protagonist, who controls the money for the deal, walks into the room, extends her hand to the board chairwoman, and gets a response that is just shocking. And this was the line that set everything in motion. Now, the source material makes it really clear. This wasn't some quiet aside. She said it with a smirk loud enough for the whole board to hear and laugh. A total power play, right out in the open, and a massive failure to figure out who was actually in the room with them. But here's the kicker, the part they completely forgot about. The whole thing was being live streamed. Yeah, for transparency. So that little red light on the camera, it was catching everything, turning this arrogant little moment into cold, hard, and very public evidence. So what does our protagonist do after being so publicly shut down? She doesn't fight back. She doesn't say a word. She just sits and watches. And the board? They've already decided she's a junior assistant, so they completely ignore her, making one fatal assumption after another. You can literally see what they were thinking from these whispers. Oh, she's just here to manage optics. They had her all figured out. Or so they thought. They saw exactly what they wanted to see, not who was really sitting right in front of them. And it just keeps going. The protagonist had been given some welcome flowers, and when she moves them, the chairwoman dismisses her again, treating her like she's the help. You can just feel the case building against them, insult by insult. So the meeting rolls on, and the board is just completely clueless. But the finance director, he's stuck on one little detail. The money hasn't officially been authorized yet. He keeps bringing it up, and the chairwoman just waves him off, until he finally won't let it go. So finally, the chairwoman turns back to the protagonist, but you can just hear the disbelief in her voice. You're saying you control the funds? Like, there's no way this low-level employee could possibly hold any real power. And then, the mic drop. With this one sentence, everything changes. The source says you could hear a pin drop in that room. Suddenly, everyone's scrambling, trying to figure out who this person they just dismissed really is. And just in case anyone still had doubts, the finance director confirms it. She's the sole signatory. Not on a committee, not an advisor. Her and her alone had total control over that $2.1 billion. The power was right there the whole time, they just chose not to see it. Now, you can't just pull $2 billion in a whim, right? Well, usually. But in this case, it was all laid out in the contract, thanks to a very, very specific clause that seems like it was written for this exact scenario. This is the secret weapon, the conduct provision. And get this, her own legal team insisted it be added to the deal. This wasn't some standard fine print. It was a custom-built safety switch, just in case the people they were about to give billions to turned out to be, well, disrespectful. And look how brilliantly simple the execution was. The disrespect, caught on their own live stream. During a quick break, she makes one call. By the time they're back from coffee, the money is gone. Clean, quiet, and completely irreversible. Someone actually asked her later if she put that clause in because she was worried about optics. And her answer tells you everything you need to know. This was never about looking good. It was about making sure they were partnering with people of integrity. Okay, so the money's been pulled, but the board walks back into the room like nothing happened. They have absolutely no idea that the foundation of their entire company is about to crumble in real time. This next part sounds like it's straight out of a movie. It doesn't start with a bang, it starts with a buzz. Then another, and another. Phones on the boardroom table just starting to light up, one by one. And just look how quickly it unravels. 1 minute, a phone buzzes. The next, the CFO's face just goes white as he reads the alert. A minute later, the announcement comes. The funding has been withdrawn. It took less than 5 minutes to go from a done deal to absolute chaos. And this chaos wasn't just in the boardroom. The second the news broke, the market reacted. Instantly. The company's value started to tank before the market even opened. That's the real-world price of disrespect, right there. And the people responsible, the chairwoman who started it all, placed on administrative leave, her career in tatters. The incoming CEO who was about to take over, his new job is now on the line. The very system they thought they were on top of just completely backfired on them. When you boil it all down, this whole disaster happened because of what they saw versus what was actually real. They saw Junior Saffer, she was the final decision maker. They thought it was a procedural formality, it was actually a character test. They thought she was making an empty threat, it was a legally binding clause. They got every single thing wrong. And that brings us to the final lesson, which our protagonist summed up perfectly. It's not about earning respect after you've proven your worth. In her world, respect is the price you pay just to get in the door. A pretty powerful takeaway, and a reminder that you should never, ever underestimate the quietest person in the room.